We've been talking about Sega Forever for the past week or so, trying to figure out what it was. Then more information came out and we started to figure out it was pretty much related to mobile. That's right, it was going to be something to do with cell phones or just mobile devices in general, with tablets, and it turns out that's exactly what this is. And what's really interesting though is it's free. And it's kind of free in the sense that there are ads. Yes, that's right. It's going to have ad placement around the game. And I tried Kid Chameleon out, for example, and I found the ads a little intrusive. Specifically, when you first turn it on, you're greeted with an ad in the middle below the start button. Then when you actually try to start the game, it hits you with one of those timed ads where it counts down from 5 seconds and then you hit the X button. But after that, it was fine. I played some of Kid Chameleon and it worked as well as you'd think with touchscreen controls. But first, let's kind of talk about the service real quick and see what it kind of entails. So we had a really cool trailer released. I say cool because it was kind of like a 90s nostalgia type thing, where it definitely looked like at first it was something that would have been shot in the early to mid 90s back then, when the Sega and the Super Nintendo were kind of battling it out. Kind of has that look and feel to it. But what they showed was basically a scientist putting all of these systems from the Sega generations into one box, and then it pumped out a phone, because basically what's happening here is they're putting all of their past generations of consoles into this program, or this setup, Sega Forever. And really, you can basically download any game you want that they put out for free. And then if you want to get rid of ads, you can do that for what appears to be $1.99. I don't know if it's going to change for different systems, because they showed the lineup of systems, which includes the Game Gear and the Dreamcast. That's right, they are bringing Dreamcast games to cell phones. I have to imagine Saturn is probably going to be there at some point too, but they showed Dreamcast, and they even showed us a little teaser for a Dreamcast game that is on the way. So we know yes, it is free right now with ad support, or of course you can take ads off, and you can download it on either side. Whether you have Android or an iPhone, you can download it on your respective app store. So we know free on mobile. We also know there are going to be world leaderboards that take high scores and kind of rank you against other people, which is a cool idea to kind of integrate that with modern stuff going on. I mean, I don't really know how you do multiplayer right now online, since Nintendo is just now figuring it out with their Virtual Console, where they know everyone has the same system. This has got to be a lot harder when you're not sure what phone network people are on, or what cell phone they have, since there's so many different ones. That could be kind of tricky, but at least leaderboards kind of lets you be competitive with people around the world. Now, they've also promised offline play, but when I checked it out, it looked like you had to pay the ad-free version, the $1.99, to have saves off of their cloud. If you, for example, don't pay, you have to keep your save on the cloud, which I guess is a way to keep you coming back for ads, because if they gave you offline saves, you just wouldn't have to connect at all and you could play offline without ads. So yes, you have to pay that $1.99 to get the entire game offline, essentially. Now, they also mentioned that there is built-in controller support. I did not try to hook up my SNES, the 30 Do. I can do that. I might take a shot at that to see what happens. I assume you want something set up more like a Genesis controller, although the Super Nintendo obviously has enough buttons right now for what they have up, because when you start it up, you have the typical ABC in that kind of setup, where it's like that arcing setup, and then of course you have the D-pad and start button right there in the middle. So the Super Nintendo controller or Xbox, any of those controllers should work fine for this, as long as it connects Bluetooth to your controller or your phone. It looks like it just picks it up and it works automatically. Now let's talk about the games that they showed us. If you go on their website, you can check out the 5 games they have available right now. Like, you can go download it right now. I downloaded Kid Chameleon. Any of these other ones should also be available, and that includes the original Sonic the Hedgehog, Phantasy Star 2, Altered Beast, Comic Zone, and Kid Chameleon. They also tease, if you look up there to the top right, a Dreamcast game, it appears to be anyway, Virtua Tennis, which is a great Dreamcast game to bring over to get started. I'm going to be very curious how they make Dreamcast games work, since VMUs did play a pretty significant part in certain games, so I want to see how they make that work, right? Where they can bring the VMU into play. How does this work for Sega? It looks like they are jumping into the mobile scene, seriously, straight away, head first, right? Because they're putting their whole library of games. They're promising new games added to this every single month. And what's interesting is it's built on Unity. They are completely rebuilding the middleware program to be Unity, so it can also work on other systems. In fact, they even named the Switch in a recent interview, saying that it could work on the Switch. They could bring the entire service to the Switch if Nintendo, I guess, and them kind of get together and make that happen. So you could eventually see this library on the Switch. Now, I don't know how that's going to work, because Nintendo's Virtual Console, maybe they wanted some of those games to show up on the Virtual Console, and really Sega has no problem really just doing this, where they're just pushing all these games to you in a service-based setup. Keep in mind, guys, that's the best way right now for these companies to do this, where they can basically get money from you consistently, and that's what they're doing. They're looking to release these games and get money from you a lot. Like, you're just going to pay $1.99 for each ad service to be wiped from a game if you want that game. $2 isn't bad, though. For like Comic Zone, awesome game. Like, that is so worth it. Phantasy Star 2, you're going to be playing that for a while if you want to put that on there. And honestly, the touchscreen controls won't affect a slower moving RPG like that as it would to something like Sonic, where you have to be, you know, the reflexes have to be there. And let's be completely honest here, guys. Touchscreen controls, not that good. But I gotta say, this is really cool. I like that they decided to go with a free concept rather than try to get you to buy each game for like $4 or $5 or even $3. It's much easier for people to jump in, maybe play around with it, and they go, well, I got my money's worth. Let's throw $2 in, and I don't have to get ads, and I can play this offline as well. Great idea, Sega. I hope you do put some awesome games on here. Get into that Sega library, or that Saturn library, man. Get into that, because there's so many cool Saturn games that people just have not been able to play because they're like impossible to find. So pull some of those really interesting games over. Like, get Panzer Dragoon Saga on here and just make so many collectors on eBay who are trying to sell these things for like $300 to $400. Just make them really mad, because you could be like, oh, I can get it for $2. I guess I'll just buy it. Although, to be fair, that game may end up being like a $5 or $6 game, but come on, everyone's going to pay for that. People would pay $20 for that game on your phone, because otherwise, what, you're going to go buy it for $400? No, just get it for $10, $20 on my phone. So I hope they add and take some chances here with these games. But yes, guys, go check out their website. You can also search on your phone's app store for any of these games. Great move by Sega. I just want to see what else they bring over other than, say, Sega Genesis, or the obvious. Genesis and Game Gear and Dreamcast are the big obvious ones. But let's see some interesting ones from the Game Gear, or the Master System, or the Saturn. That's what I want to see. That's it for now, guys. I'll see you next time.